All right, so we're just taking some time today to talk to Emily Anderson. Actually, Emily, do you mind introducing yourself and sort of what you do and why
Yeah,
we're talking?
sure. Sure. So my name is Emily Anderson, and I am the Deputy Director at Chaffee County Public Health. So that's a small local public health agency in Colorado.
All right, cool. So one of the things we're talking about today is sort of how Chaffee County and RSVPify work together. And I think maybe the best way to start would be to kind of talk us through or walk us through, sort of the situation that led you up to connecting with RSVPify and sort of how RSVPify came in.
Sure. Well, this was quite a trip down memory lane for me. So if you recall, at the very end of 2020 and into 2021, COVID vaccines were being developed and were coming out and becoming available to the public. And so local public health agencies were charged with vaccinating their community. And gosh, I remember it so clearly. My boss and I were having a bit of a disagreement. She said, I think it'll be fine if we just tell people, okay, if your last name begins with A through H, please come at this time. And then if your last name begins with this, come at this time. And I said, I think that's going to be a huge disaster. People are really anxious for this vaccine, and I think we have to have an online reservation system. But I got overruled. And so we started out, we had 2 vaccine clinics where we kind of just hoped for the best. We were out at our local fairgrounds. We had a great system, a drive-through vaccine system, and it worked until it didn't. And when we got to this group of, I think it was age 65 and older, and we were hoping just for the best, that people would just follow our directions. And it didn't work at all. And I remember, I don't know exactly what happened. I think we had a traffic backup, and it was just a total disaster. And I'll never forget it. I heard my boss, she was on a Zoom call with our county commissioners as kind of the whole thing was falling apart. And she said, don't worry, we will have an online reservation system up and running by Wednesday. And this was Monday. And then she hung up, and then she looked at me and she said, can you make that happen? And I had been researching some organizations who could do this for us over Christmas break. This was all at the beginning of January, and RSVPify was on my radar. And so when she said that on a Monday, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to look into this more. And so I sat on my couch all day Tuesday and all day Wednesday, and I connected with you all. And I said, I need help building this online system for people to reserve their spots to get their vaccines. And at the time, nothing that was exactly what I needed existed, but I worked with, I don't know, a product developer, someone, and we created an incredible platform, which we used for years to run these mass vaccination clinics. And it's one of my proudest professional moments. Our vaccine clinics, for many reasons, including our staff and our volunteers, were some of the best run in the entire state. We had people traveling across the state. We had people traveling to other states because they said, we know that Chaffee County, they're doing a great job. And part of it was because we had this system that just kept us so organized, and that was using you all.
And I mean, you kind of jumped to, my next question, but yeah, what was it, that RSVPify could do? Or I guess, when we think about online scheduling, right, people think about like, oh, can you just use Google Forms or calendar invites, or like, what was, I think, the specific things that, RSVPify was able to provide? Obviously we were at the same time, trying to put this together to make sure that it was helpful because we thought it was equally important. So I guess, what was maybe the features that stood out or were the most useful for you as you progressed through these years of kind of vaccination appointments?
Yeah, I mean, it was just so customizable. And the state eventually did come out with a scheduling program, but it didn't fit our need. It was very like one size fits all. And we needed to change the program every single time based on, say, oh, we have only 4 staff, so we can only do this many shots per 15 minutes. Oh, now we have 8 staff, so we can bump it up. So it was just so customizable. So we really used the slots. I don't know what to call the features, but we use like how many slots per 15 minutes. We were able to ask the questions we needed to ask. We were able to design it. That was another part we really liked, is we wanted a certain look. It worked really well. I don't know what particular feature this was, but if you recall, each vaccine had a second one. You got one and then you got one 3 weeks later. So every single time we finished a clinic, we then later that day had to go reopen a matching clinic 3 weeks later, because we knew that exact group of people was coming back. And so I could duplicate the event, which made it really easy. I wasn't starting from scratch. I was essentially just changing a few words, and I knew that what we accomplished that day, we could accomplish 3 weeks later. So all of the features worked really well. I think probably the best part was just how responsive you guys were. I'd have things that needed to be changed or questions, or to my knowledge, since you were building this along with us, you were adding things to your program as we went along, and it just worked really well for us.
Yeah, it certainly was a building the plane as you fly it situation for, I think, both of us.
Yeah, I felt that. I mean, those 2 days that I sat there, I mean, I knew I was working with somebody who was probably doing the same thing, just sitting there trying to figure out how to make this happen. So it felt like great teamwork.
Great. And then I guess the last question, just in terms of, working with organizations similar to you, obviously COVID vaccines maybe not this as big of a demand as they were at the time that we first partnered. But for, public health organizations that have kind of ongoing needs for scheduling or for appointments, I guess what would you recommend about, and even not even just RSVPify, but kind of looking for solutions like this? What did you learn from the experience, or, I guess whether we helped you or just in general, what you learned to look for when you're looking for future?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, we ended up, after the mass vaccine clinics ended, we used RSVPify for other things, other types of clinics. We ended up using it for online scheduling for vital records appointments. I think what we realized that began with COVID, when everybody went virtual, until that point, we had never I have been at this company for over 12 years. And until COVID, we'd never had any sort of online option. People you had to call in or come to our office. And so we now know the world is just in a place where if you don't have an option to get on your phone and make your appointment, then you're not meeting the needs of the public. And so I think moving forward, we just realized people don't necessarily want to call in. And we don't have the bandwidth to take everybody's calls. And so when you can implement a system like we have used, where people can just get online, search for an appointment time, make their own appointment, we don't have to have that interaction. It just saves everybody time, and it's more relevant for how people would like to work these days.
It makes sense, and especially given the work that you all are doing, like we said, we were glad we could help, and hope to be able to help other similar kind of organizations and individuals like you. I just want to thank you, Emily, for taking the time to talk with me and with RSVPify. We truly are proud to have partnered with you on this. It's a lot of, honestly, a lot, not just fun, but like super important to us to do this kind of work or to help people.
Yeah. Great.
So,
you guys were a really important part of our success. So I mean, I couldn't recommend this organization enough, and it was quite a journey we went on. I'm glad it's over, but I think we did really important things, just like you said.
yep, trip down memory lane, like you said. So,
Yeah.
like you said, I'm sure you have more important work to do. So thank you for taking the time with me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Adam.
Sure. All right.